Hey, everybody. Welcome to CHLY 101.7 FM. I am delighted that you were here. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, in the Zoom booth today, and of course it is the Zoom booth. I am not at the radio station yet. I'm still doing it online. It's so much easier for many of my guests for us to do it this way. But please be aware that once in a while, there's a few crackles and a few bangs and all of that stuff. That's part of the Zoom experience. But nonetheless, in the booth with me today, I have someone very special. About 2.5 years ago, we started the COVID conversation, right when it first opened up. My guest at that time, Marg Bickerton, shared with us what it felt like to be an older adult respectfully within community during a time that it was really quite a scary place for a lot of people. She joins me again today for a bit of follow-up. Let's find out how things are going in the last couple of years has gone by. Welcome to the program, Margaret. How are you, sweetie pie?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm still here.
You're still here. Yay!
Yeah.
Well, firsthand, I'm very delighted that you're still here. And I'm curious, I think it's probably a good idea if we sort of give our listeners the idea of, how you were feeling back in the day when COVID had first begun and the things that were going on in that time. And then we'll do a few updates about, how things are now and the experiences that you and the people that live in your building and in our neighborhoods, what's happening for them. So go ahead, Margaret, why don't you share with us what's happening?
Sure. Yeah. So just going back to 2 years, I guess it's been 2.5 years, when it first came about, COVID and all the scares and that. Me specifically was terrified. I was petrified. I didn't leave my unit. I stayed I live in a condo.
Yeah.
I did not leave my unit. And everybody else in the building pretty well was close to what I was doing. Everyone made sure they wore masks, gloves. Yeah. We were very diligent. We did cleaning. We did everything that was recommended. Everybody in the building. So everyone in the building was the same. So basically, I isolated for probably a good 2 years.
That must have done a lot respectfully to self-esteem, to comfort levels. What was it like for you just to stay in your house for those 2 years?
Well, at least, thank goodness, I like my own company. So
yeah, there's something to be said for that. Yeah, right. And you have your husband as well, which is really groovy.
Yeah, right. And he was good too. I mean, he was working and continued to mask up. They masked up to work, did the same, followed all the protocols and everything. So, I mean, touch wood, in this time period, since then up to today, Michael and I have been very fortunate. We've not gotten ill. We kept up with all the shots, the COVID shots. They were recommended, and will continue to do so, because I feel it's important. Obviously, to me, it's proven that it works, because here I sit today and have been COVID free. One of the lucky ones.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important conversation just in that itself. A lot of people there's been, CHOY, myself, we're not taking a position one way or another on what people should do, but we know that it was really important, particularly in the early days, for older adults, for everyone, especially even if you have an autoimmune disease, which I do, you had to make sure that you were protecting yourself, but really the focus was so much more on other people. Right, that being immunized meant that we weren't, giving it to somebody else without trying to, like by just being wandering around with the germ and not understanding, right? So I think that part of it was important. But have you noticed that, like in your building, was there a trend for people, older adults within the building itself, that said, we're going to follow these protocols, or was there any paranoia? Was there any frustration? Like, how are people overall in your community behaving?
Okay, I'll just give it a little background. It's a small building. There's 36 units, which are mostly over the age of 65, 70. A lot of single women, very few couples in the building. So we all yeah, everybody was very respectful, sorry, of everybody within the building. We kept our distances. We didn't mingle. We used to do every Wednesday, we used to have like a happy hour at 4 o'clock. We'd everyone meet in the lobby, have a few drinks, a couple of drinks of wine, just catch up with neighbors and chit chat. We have not done that since COVID. As the building as a whole, everybody feels much more comfortable not participating in that. Doesn't mean we don't speak to each other or see each other, but everybody keeps their distance.
Yeah.
People still are wearing masks around the building, which is fine. And by the sounds of it, is the way we're going to have to continue to go again. And so, yeah, generally, and there has been, like, I'm on council, so I'm aware of what goes on within the building and, what's happening with people. And there, in the time period since COVID started, there have been people that have contracted COVID, but respectfully stayed in their units and did not leave their units. Had family or whatever come in or bring in what they needed, dispose of their garbage for them, so they weren't in the elevators. So it was a good community.
It was well contained by the sounds of it, that people sort of stayed within themselves, and therefore there wasn't as much of a touch point issue for contracting it. But I remember in the beginning, Marg, that you were really, really, really scared. And you talked about being terrified when you opened this conversation. How was the feeling, with the idea that it's still out there, where does your terror sit now compared to in the beginning?
Much, not anywhere near what it was in the beginning. The beginning, yeah. I literally was, I wouldn't even go out. I wouldn't go to grocery stores. Or if I did, I made sure, or I went during the hours that were offered by the stores, which was nice, so that I wasn't coming in contact with people. But I used to be you know me, I used to be a shopper. I used to go shopping, go to the mall and just do window shopping or just walk around do shopping. I've not done that since COVID occurred. Yeah. I don't go buy my grandchildren's Christmas gifts now. I just send money. Terrible grandmother, but I send money and have the parents purchase gifts for us, because I don't even want to go in the stores to Christmas shop. So that part of my life has changed drastically, in that I don't even have I don't even feel like shopping.
It's almost a retraining of your system when you're not going, when you're used to doing something, and then you find yourself in a different ritual. It's not always easy to go back. And, in all fairness, there is a season for everything in life, right? There's a season to shop. There's a season to stay in. There's a season to, for no matter what's going on in our world. We always know that a season comes and it goes and it passes. And new habits come in. Did you find yourself doing new things during COVID? Where a lot of people did. How about you?
No.
I don't know if that's entirely true, because you were playing cards and stuff like that before, but I'm thinking you're playing cards a little bit more frequently. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay. I'm gonna have to, because one of the girls on council laughed when we were talking one day, and I said, "Oh, I gotta go because I gotta get caught up in my Switch games, because when I go see my grandkids, I gotta make sure I can play." She laughed. She says, "I knew you'd be a Switch. I knew that you'd be." So I get video games, and then of course we're avid campers, which we did. That was our activity in the summer, so we never went anywhere other than camping, so we stuck that way. We never traveled anywhere. Still don't have any inclination to do that. We used to be big going on cruises, that. My friend cruisers loved going on cruises. Now not even I wouldn't even think of going on a cruise right now.
I was going to ask you, I do recall the cruise thing being a big deal. And of course, cruises by nature have already their own set of circumstances well before COVID ever hit. But for sure, I mean, I recall being at your apartment once with your telescope, right? Or your not telescope, but whatever it is that you have there so you can take a look out. I mean, your window faces, you can see the wonderful big cruise ships going by. And that must have been eerie for them not to come by as well during COVID, by the way.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that was one of the reasons we purchased this unit here, and in the location that we did was because it's on Discovery Passage there, so all the cruise ships go up and down. Although this last year, of course, when they all came back, all started going again. I've never seen so many cruise ships as I have in this last year, so that was kind of cool. But I'll only watch.
Really?
Yeah, I'll only watch them now. I don't.
But you're not going to go back on them. You have no
No.
desire to take another cruise again.
No.
What did you find that the people that your contemporaries, people that you were hanging out with, were they very similar in their feeling regarding regarding the COVID fear? Did they come through it, or have you seen some changes in some of your friends over this time period, or some of the people in the building or in your neighborhood?
Yeah, I've seen changes within people's personalities, attitudes. I find a lot of shortness in people now that wasn't there before. Kindness that used to be there isn't quite there anymore. People are more prone to keep to themselves or a little short with their temper. Again, being on council, I get all the phone calls, I get all the complaints. So it's something that has, I think, been affected by COVID. Or COVID has affected people in the way they feel about things or doing things. And that could be, like you said, isolation. When people isolate like that, then you're not really mingling, so you're not getting that interaction between people.
Yeah.
So
I that certainly plays a role in the way that people are coming together. I notice a similar thing. I notice that when I'm out in community right now, they're either at one extreme, I think, or another. The one extreme is that, like you've just pointed out, they're a little shorter temper. I notice that there's people that are still wearing their mask, which is great. I personally endorse and believe that people need to do what's comfortable for them. And in fact, I do wear my mask as well. Sometimes I don't wear it all the time. I'll be honest. I don't wear it nearly as much as I used to, but I've also had as many vaccines as I could get and the flu shot and all of that. So I feel like I'm in a good position. But I also think that we need to be respectful of other people. And if their comfort level isn't there, it's really important for us to just sort of take the lead if someone is a bit edgy to back up. On the other hand, I'm seeing people that have been isolated for such a long time. It's like, oh my God, I can't wait to be in an environment where I'm seeing people. This fall, I had the first opportunity in 3 years to be in a very large social setting with Shine 2020, or 2022, I mean, and I loved it. I mean, I loved being with all those people again. It was so fantastic. But I also saw that there were people very still conscious of being around others, that sort of, they stood around the edges. They didn't want to sit at the tables, or they, were still wearing their masks quite comfortably. So I think it's important that we follow that. If you could give a teaching or a feeling that you had during those 2.5 years where you were having to isolate, and you were obviously with your own company, what was the best part of being in your own company?
I felt safe.
Yeah.
Felt safe. Like I said, in this time period, thank God we escaped, or we remained healthy, both of us. And I can take away from that is because I stayed safe. Will I will I start venturing out again? I do. We do. We went to the movies the other, a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Good girl.
Yeah, but just a step because, but I mean, you go. We live in Campbell River, community of I don't know how I don't know. I mean, it's a small community. So when I go to the theater, there's like maybe 20 people in the theater, so you can space out. So that part was good. But in the theater, there's still underneath a little inkling that I had, a little inkling feeling of being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Even though, like you say, we've done everything, we've protected ourselves as best that we possibly can according to modern medicine. But there still was a little tickle of uneasiness.
Yeah, no, and I understand that entirely. I got to tell you, some of my friends, including yourself, a lot of my friends are in their late 60s and early 70s and, close to 80. A couple of them are over 80 for that matter. And so I have a real breadth of people that are, considered to be seniors or older adults that I hang with. One of my friends, who lives in Vancouver. This is a woman who is, for all intent and purpose, absolutely, a shining light, super brilliant, like yourself, outgoing, easy to be around. And I watched her change when it first came out. And in fact, I watched her change so radically in the beginning. And I did for you too, in all fairness. I watched you change a little bit too. Uh, you know, she was even more terrorized. Having said that, I think the reason why she was even more terrorized as well is because that none of her family was nearby her to support her. And I know most of your family isn't that close to you physically either, but she was really, really concerned. She thought she would never see her son again. He lives in the States, that she would never see him again. She was beyond, like, we would go to a restaurant where everyone was wearing masks, and she would demand that we needed to sit at a window with the window open because she was really very, very uncomfortable, even wearing N95 masks when we were able to go back into restaurants, which really didn't happen until the second year. Right. There was a lot of that anxiety. And to this day, she's a little bit more open, like you. She's a little more open. She's testing the water. She's gone to the theater. She's gone to a few things. But when I mentioned to her that there was a new wave potentially coming this winter, she was like, I'm all over putting the mask back on. Let's leave them on. How do you feel about that?
For sure. It actually, this is sort of not really the COVID situation, but since wearing the mask, I've not had a cold, not had any flu. I know a lot of it is because I isolated, but I mean, I still went out, we still went for groceries, and I still visited with my grandkids who, we all know kids, and they get colds and flus and stuff. And that's usually where you get colds and flus from, is the kids. But I believe, my belief now, and I don't think I'll ever not wear a mask anymore because of the proof to me, myself, that I won't get flu, people can sneeze around me, people can do whatever. So I'm protecting myself better with the mask on, not specifically just from COVID, but from germs in general, which they're all out there. I don't know how many strains of germs that are floating around, but there's a lot of them, a lot more than we're aware of that are out there.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are in the same boat as you are. I still see a lot of masks around for that very reason, is that they haven't got sick all year. One of my other friends made the comment just recently as well and said, I've never been in a circumstance where I haven't had a fall cold or a winter cold. Touch wood, I haven't had a thing. Right. So I think that there's something to be said. I also think there's something to be said for anybody who has an autoimmune deficiency, right? Whatever that might look like to people. I think that, it's easy enough for people to get stuff. It's nothing to put a mask on. It's self-protection. It's, and how do you feel about the naysayers? Do you see any naysayers in the building or around you that were really belligerent about not following protocols? Not just in
Not
the building, but everywhere, right? Like in your environment.
all my own family. There were a number of there were a number of anti-vaxxers. There's a number of them that were like that. I did not visit with them. In other words, I chose not to, and that was my choice.
Of course.
Yep. And as far as, like I said, Campbell River is pretty small, so I don't really have too much interaction with the public. Michael can answer that actually better than I could, because he's working with the public. Yeah, they get it. They get people coming in, and they be told they have to, during that time when you had to wear a mask, and that was mandatory. You either wear a mask or we don't serve you. There's the door, right? And
very simple.
yeah, you get people that would get irate and, oh, this is all conspiracy. The government just doing this, and I'm going,
I know, right? There's a lot of them, a lot of naysayers. And certainly in the public forum, no one deserves to be disrespected at any time, but particularly at that. I think we need to be a lot more respectful for our servers and for people that are working in shops and stores that keep us all functioning. It's insane that they get treated badly.
I don't tell, sorry, I just wanted to add.
Go ahead.
Tell, or I don't take a stand, or I don't condemn them for their feelings on that. If that's the way they want to be, that's fine. I just ask them to respect my feelings in wearing a mask and getting the vaccines. That's all. Other than that, don't come down on me or start lecturing me, which one did, but I'm not going to divulge that. But of all,
there's always going to be one. There's always going to be one, right? There's got to be one that gives people a hard time. It doesn't matter what it is in this life we're doing, right? There's going to be one.
Oh yeah, and they know better than you what you're doing. You're whatever. Anyway, but I respect your decision, and I expect the same respect back. So that's it.
So, I'm glad to see that we've got some movement now with COVID, and that people are starting to come to the table, and they're starting to understand that, we're all in this together one way or the other, and we need to be supportive of each other whenever we can. And just to change the subject a little bit, even though that part of the premise of today was to kind of catch up over that COVID piece, I'm curious as well, because I love how candid you are about the business of getting older as well. And I'm curious about, your feelings now. I mean, you come through in the last, I'll let you determine if you want to share your age or not, but, you're at an age where you've seen a lot of things and you've gone through a lot of experiences. And I'm a big believer in the wisdom of the ages, right? So why don't you, if you don't mind unpacking some of that, what's your experience been? Take COVID as that's another little, that's a bump on the wall, right? That is what we've experienced. But what is it like to be aging right now in 2022, 2023? Like, how does that feel?
A lot different than my parents at the same age. I'll put it that way. I think now, I mean, you watch the news. That's what's interesting. Watch the news, and at the end of Czech news or during the Czech news, they do birthdays, happy birthday to so-and-so, and they do anniversary. People are living into their hundreds. I mean, my God, when my parents were around my age or whatever that they are now, they didn't have friends that lived that long. They were lucky if they made 79 or 76. That was a good age, right? Now, now we're seeing 98 into the hundreds, and it's because we are taking care of, or we're getting better care, even though our medical system is kind of falling down. But we do get better care than they did. Medicine is.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Like what? How are we getting better care? What do you think? What way?
Well, I get my blood checked once a year. It's checked for everything that could, he checks everything, checks cholesterol. So as far as heart attacks or anything like that, it's pretty small because, cholesterol
You're on top of it. Sure. Yeah.
Blood pressure, he checks that. So we're doing more of that than my parents did at the same age. They didn't go to the doctor, they didn't do that type of maintenance on their body like we do now. I think that's common with everybody in Canada, all of us older people. You want to call me old?
You're not an older person. You know what I find is I find that ageism comes in now. I think that a lot of people now are concentrating on trying not to be ageist. I think what's happened in the last while, like I remember both of my grandmothers, bless their hearts. My grandmother was in Australia. I had met her probably 2 or 3 times my whole life because she lived in Australia, and I, lived in Canada, never have been to Australia. And my grandmother on my mother's side, she died at, an early age. She passed away in her early 70s.
Right?
But she looked like an older grandmother. Like, both of my grandparents did. My grandmother on my father's side was very, hair back in the bun, and, wore the collars and the clothes that were a bit more dowdy. And like, she wasn't, she was an incredible human being, but she definitely looked like an older person. Right.
Right.
And then my grandmother on my mother's side, the same thing. But all of my friends that are in their 70s and they're women, right, 60s and 70s, that are women, they look like they're 20. They don't, or well, maybe not 20, but they certainly don't look anything like, right?
But yeah, and I think that's the attitude that we have now is, well, that's my attitude anyway. I don't feel 71.
Yeah.
Inside, I don't feel 71. I feel.
How old do you feel? How old do you feel?
25, 26,
Woo-hoo.
30.
I see that in you all the time, right?
Hey, you and I have had a few glasses of
We've
wine.
We've had a few celebrations over many years.
Exactly. So you know what
I know. I'm bringing you to the radio, and of this vicarious way is such a hoot, right? Because it's like, I mean, I know you very, very well, and I understand you. It's one of the reasons that I feel that you're such a great example of what getting older looks like. We're not that far different in age. We're a little bit, but not far. And what I notice is that your youthfulness is just so extraordinary, right? Like, you're just, it's like great. I'm grateful. I'm really, really grateful to be surrounded in my life by mentors that are youthful in their 70s and their 80s. Like, it always shocks me because, I know that I'm almost 60. And what I find is that I don't feel anywhere near that. Not
No,
even
I know.
close.
No, I
Right?
know. Yeah. So how old do you feel, Kathy? How old do you feel?
Oh, yeah. Turn it on me. I'm the interviewer here, young lady. I feel like I would be in my early 20s. I wouldn't want to go back respectfully to being teens, right? Like, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm certain that there are times when I feel, especially when you and I are playing, right? Like, I can see our teenageness coming out in us for sure.
Yeah.
But I would say that I feel like the beginnings when I became a mom at 27, 28, whatever it was, I would say that that's where I am. It's just before that time when I actually had to be responsible for another human being besides myself, right? So.
And I'm comfortable. I'm very comfortable I'm comfortable in my age and my skin, I guess I would call it.
Yeah.
Wish I had less wrinkles, but I mean, that's go
I think we all wish we had less wrinkles. That's what the creams are for. They don't work, but if you were to see my drawer that's full of anti-aging creams, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I got them all there. Yeah, they don't work, but at least they give you a false sense of maybe someone might one day come up with a magic cream, but no, I look at it as
but even if they don't, I love the idea. Like, again, we were talking a minute ago about that aging process, right? Like, and I think that ageism is so important for us for this part of the conversation, because there are a lot of people that make some pretty darn difficult assumptions, right? Like, just because somebody has a wrinkle doesn't mean we put them, that they need to have the cream. Like, these are lines of life and experience and wisdom, and
that's what I was going to say. They're lines of, I don't look at them as age lines. They're wisdom. They're part of my made me who I am today. The experiences that I've had, and yeah. No, I don't. Like I said, I don't really feel old. I physically can't do what I could do at 20 and 30, but inside I sure wish I could sometimes. But yeah.
Oh, you
No.
and me both. You and me both. Getting down and getting back up again, not necessarily although I can. Do I have to?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I'd rather.
That's what I got Michael for. I go up in the grocery store. If you go down, I'm going down to get something on the bottom shelf, and I go, okay, no, I need a hand back. And yeah, going back up.
For me, I don't have a partner in that way. So for me, it's like I need a pincher stick, right? Like
Yeah.
you know, those little claw sticks to go click, click. You've got a little pincher stick. Sometimes that helps a lot. Yeah, yeah. So as far as it goes for getting older, do you have any advice for people as far as, you know, health and well-being? Like, what are some of the things that you take practice in doing that you enjoy that help keep you youthful?
Eating well.
Hmm.
We don't. I don't eat. We don't eat out very much. We don't eat very many rich foods. Uh, attitude. Attitude's a big thing. Attitude will keep you young over anything else. I don't know. Just and keep going. Keep moving. Don't get into that slump of, oh my God, I'm like 75. I'm old. I'm old.
Yeah. Attitude makes a lot of difference, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. And again, just keep moving, keep active, and keep healthy.
Yeah.
See your doctor when you can, if you got one.
Yeah, well, I know that finding healthcare right now is not always an easy thing. However, the good news is I will, you know, a little bit of a shout out to to Vancouver Island, in that we are establishing in a number of areas, primary care facilities for people to go, especially if they're not attached to a doctor, so people can get some of the supports. It's slow moving. It's not as fast as we want it to happen over, you know, the course of several years. I'm sure we'll start seeing them popping up a little bit more frequently as the need arises. But a big part of it, you're right, is, you know, having a good mental framework, right, to keep you going. Do you do for mental awareness, do you do like puzzles and things like that to keep you active, or do you have what kind of things do you do?
Yeah, jigsaw puzzles. iPads or phones and what are great for jigsaw puzzles. And again, I like my video games, and and we play.
What's your favorite video game?
Mario Brothers.
Mario Brothers?
Mario Kart. Yeah, Mario Kart. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's just as good on the Switch as it always has, but still the number one. So yeah, Mario Kart's my all-time favorite go-to video game. And
I can't leave them at all.
Puzzles, word games, and then Michael and I do a lot of game playing, cards, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing when the three of us are together, is for us to play cards. I mean, I won't deny that that's one of the highlights of our time together. Is we, you know, I love how we celebrate certain different occasions, or if we're camping or whatever, and it's like, you know, sometimes you win, sometimes I win, sometimes really Michael wins, though. It's you and I. Michael loses all the time. I'm sure he'll shoot me for saying that, but actually he does win quite a bit. I'm just giving him a hard time because I can. So, you know, moving forward, you know, when you think about where your life is going now, do you have some concrete plans for 2023 or for the future? Where would you like to see the next few years go for you? What would you like to do?
Sure. We that we just recently purchased a motorhome.
Yep.
A small one, but motorhome.
It's not that small. It's a good one.
That's a nice one. Yeah, I love it.
It's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Next year, so plans, we're going to do much more camping than we did, and more adventure next year. For 2023, we're planning to go to Saskatchewan, go for a month. We're going to be gone for a month, go to Alberta, Saskatchewan, see family, see my son and his kids. I haven't seen them for about 12 years. So that's going to be I'm really looking forward to that. And then again, camping right from May until October, as much as we possibly can. And then in 2024, we're planning a trip across Canada. We want to go straight across Canada, leave here in May, probably, and not return till August, September. So that one I'm really looking forward to. That's going to be an experience.
So I know you're a planner because I know you. I know you're a planner. Where's your first stop destination in your mind? For the first Saskatchewan trip, where are you going to head to? Are you going to just drive straight through to Saskatchewan, or are you going to take a few stops along the way?
We haven't decided yet. Where specifics yet. We got to find some maps. People don't make maps anymore, so I got to try and find some maps so I can see. There's people in Alberta that we'd like to see. I got some cousins I'd like to see, but I'm not sure where they are in location.
Totally understand. Yeah, for sure.
But probably I said maybe we'll head to Saskatchewan first, right? And then do that and then come back from Saskatchewan, because that's the one.
That's the main.
Those are the people that I really want to see the most, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
the most important to be seen. And then come back and hit Alberta, the rest of the in Alberta. And then we've got Michael's family here in BC. So that's the plan. Don't know if it'll work, but
So when you were 25, because we've talked about aging, the aging process and all of that. When you were 25, did you think that you would be in an RV, like running across the country?
do you want when I was 25, I thought 45 was old and I would be.
I know, right? When I was 25, I feel the same. I was like, what do you mean that I'm going to be 60? No, I'm not. It ain't going to happen.
No, I won't make it past 45. Seriously, I thought 45 was old. I mean, oh my gosh, now it's, no, that my 25, I wish I could go back. Like you said, I'd love to have what I had at 25 physically and all of that, but mentally and everything else, I don't think so. Or to be in a position, I wouldn't want to be 25-year-old today. It's too hard of a struggle for them right now.
Yeah.
I really appreciate all the hard work that I've done to get me to where we are today, which is a very comfortable place to be. That there are a lot of people our age that are not as comfortable, and we're comfortable. We're not rich and famous, but we planned well, and we're comfortable in what we have.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and I think that's sage advice as well for a lot of people. I think we have a lot of younger people that listen to our program through Malasipina University, or VIU, of course, now, but Malasipina radio station, is part of what CHLY 101.7 is, and so we know that we have a lot of youth listening, and I think that is an important piece. So I think let's break that open a little bit. What is planning? What does that look like? What is planning for getting older look like?
Saving. I still to this day put money away every single month in a savings, even though we don't, even though we don't need it, we don't need to save anymore, but it's a habit that I developed at a very young age, thanks to my father, who taught me very well. His words of wisdom, which I've passed on to some of my kids and whatever, is you don't own anything unless you paid for it. It can always be taken away from you. So my dad's advice was always pay for what you got. Never, don't do credit. Borrow. Don't do credit. Stay away from credit if you possibly can, as much as you possibly can, or don't get into a credit situation where if you lost your job, you couldn't handle the roof over your head. So that was just a teaching that was taught to me by my dad. Saving, put money away, plan for that. Even though, like you say, at 20 and 25, you go, oh gosh, and 60, I'll be fine. It's not that far. It goes really quickly. It
goes really fast, doesn't it? Like, I think that's a really important. It does. It goes really fast. And as having grandchildren now, you're really seeing it in action as well, right? If you imagine it was different when we were moms and we were taking care of our babies because they were growing before our eyes, but we were busy taking care of them.
Yeah.
But now that we have the grandchildren, I mean, every single time I turn the Zoom on to see my grandkids, somebody's grown an inch or they're doing something different. It just, the time goes by so quick.
Well, extremely quick. Like I said, our eldest grandson's 22. Oh my gosh, and And then we got young ones, of course, but wow.
Does your
Like I
22-year-old take care of your advice? Does he take care? Do you know if he takes your advice and does any saving or anything like that? Has he got
I
a chip
yeah,
off
I
mom?
think, but he probably gets from his dad because his dad's a banker, so um, he would have that teachings from his dad about putting money away, save your money, do whatever. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. Do grandkids listen to grandparents anymore? I don't know. They
Yeah.
love it when I come and visit them, but that's
Well, they're usually looking for candy in our purse or something. Like,
yeah,
what have you got? A storybook, a treat, or something. Like
yeah,
yeah, it's a different thing with our babies. There is no question about that. Yeah.
yeah. I find grandchildren have changed. I find the family structure has changed drastically from when I grew up. When I grew up, there was a lot of family interaction. My aunts, my uncles, my cousins. We got together for Christmas. We got together for Easter's. So there was a lot of. I'm so close to a lot of my cousins because we spent time together. We'd spend summers together. We do all that. I
Yeah.
find now nowadays people don't do that family connection like that. They don't. You know what I mean? Like they just don't. They're not that close anymore, and that's kind of sad. And that could be a
Do you think
problem.
technology has anything to do with it? Do you think, being the age and forget about the last couple of years again, I know we recognize that that was a blip in our world. And so obviously technology actually served us in a number of ways. But prior to that and thereafter that, do you think that, that the technology that we have developed over these years has been a disservice to the family unit?
A deterrent to the family unit? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, again, like playing games, you and me, and we get together and we play games. How many families do that nowadays? Very few, right?
Yeah.
Their kids are playing on video games, or the kids are playing with their iPads or whatever. So there's no family interaction. And I see that not always, but the only time I can get my grandkids to play games is camping. But when they're at home, they're on their iPad, or they're watching TV, or they're playing the video games. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that's their way. That's the way they do things.
Yeah, and certainly every period in life has its own distractions, right?
Yep.
And I think where you and I came from, is that we didn't have any of that stuff. So, I don't know about you, but my mother was very, very strict, in all fairness. So I didn't even have the luxury that a lot of my friends had, which was, okay, the street lights are out. When they are turning on, get your butt home, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, get outside, you'll go play, right? We didn't really have that in my family because we lived in an apartment. And so we didn't have that luxury in the same way that a lot of my friends did. But most definitely our distractions were playing with each other as we had, a larger family, right? Well, not a larger family. There were 4 of us in the family, my mother and 3 kids. And so we had someone to play with and someone to talk to and someone to do something with all the time. But I'm also seeing that a lot of families are smaller. Not my family. My family has decided to grow out and have lots of grandchildren. But a lot of families now have, one is
Yes.
where we're at. Yeah.
Yeah. So they've only got each other, or they have to amuse themselves, and unfortunately, just the way the world is, that parents are working. So both parents are working. So kids are on their own lot, or with a babysitter, whatever. So they don't get the family interaction.
Mhm. What do you think your kids are like? If you think about your own grandchildren, what do you think they're missing right now?
Me.
Yes, they are. You hallelujah to that. Yeah, for
What
sure.
do you think
Yeah.
they're missing? Actually, my grandchildren are all very active. They've got them involved in sports.
Yeah.
My granddaughter, she's a terrific little hockey player. Man, they sent videos. She's a little sweetheart on the hockey rink. So no, they've got them active, which is good, which is what I like, is because they should be, right? But there's a
Yeah.
lot of women that don't get that privilege. a lot of it's money. It's expensive to put kids in sports. It's not
Oh
cheap.
my God, I know. I know. We didn't have programs back in the day for people that didn't have the finances to support it. So a lot of that stuff we were never able to do as kids. And you know, this is the time of year. And as you know, it's December when this is, you know, airing. You know, it may be an encore in the future. And so it may not be at Christmas time, but it is Christmas time. This is the time when people, you know, the month of December, there's sort of they're shifting their priorities a little bit so that they can put things under their trees for their kids. And we know that economically speaking, it's been and we're not here to speak too much to that, but just a reminder, right, for people that are watching and listening to this program, that they, you know, that there are a lot of people that are going through a lot of stuff right now and really could use some support.
Yep.
You know?
Absolutely. Yep.
Do you have a favorite holiday tradition?
Not really, no.
No,
There's
not
no. Yeah.
no.
No.
I do. I have a favorite holiday. My holiday tradition. I'm sorry to sound so philanthropic because I'm not really, but I like doing things for other people. I love making my own cards at Christmas time.
Mhm.
I'm not always good at it. Sometimes, like last year's cards sucked. This year's hopefully will not be so bad. It's hard when you have a lot of things on your plate to do the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, actually, even though I've pulled away from that subject, I'm having an ADD moment.
Okay. Loud. That's loud.
But you know, when I think about like the Christmas traditions that have happened for people, right? Like for me, it's card and charity. Like I do a lot of charity work at this time of year. I support the Salvation Army. My listeners have heard me talk about the Sally Ann already a few times. This is the time when, you know, and it's because, frankly, I grew up in really a terrible situation. And then frankly, I still have the first present that was ever given to me. And it was given to me from a fireman who had gotten the support from either the CKNW Orphans Fund or from the Sally Ann. So that's why my story is my story. And I do really want to contribute and donate to that. But do you have like a family tradition that you guys do when it comes to contributing to community, or a tree lighting thing, or even if you don't, by the way, it doesn't matter. Like it's not like everybody has to have that. I'm just curious always about what you remember from Christmas yesterday and in more recent Christmases of time.
Well, again, like I spoke earlier about uh, family. I
Yes.
still have very fond memories of Christmas, because it'd be Christmas at Grandma's house with everybody. And my dad came from a very large family, so there'd be kids and trees and presents and all, you know, people
Yeah.
running around crazy. A lot of cousins. That I remember, and I take that with me a lot, because I don't get that. I don't get that anymore. I don't. Christmas for us now is it's just usually Michael and I alone.
Yeah.
We don't spend it with one family that we could spend it with. They're working because they're in the medical industry.
Yeah.
So we don't have that Christmas under the tree, wake up in the morning, there's the stockings and whatnot. So I carry those memories with me from my time when I raised my kids, the same type of thing. But
Yeah.
we don't do that anymore. We're pretty much just laid back. We do put a tree up, at least do that.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. That's good.
yeah,
I
but that,
didn't put one up last year at all. Not at
no,
all. I didn't decorate my house last year. I didn't put trees up or anything last year. Now, having said that, I did have plans and I did go to the north where my kids are. But at the end of the day, when I came home and my house was almost antiseptic because it didn't have all that other Christmas stuff around, I really noticed it. Not that my
yeah,
house is ever antiseptic, to be honest with you, but at the end of the day, it seemed very plain compared to others. Of course, you know, people who are watching our program on YouTube can see that I have a lot of goodies in my house, right? It's not like It's not like I miss the tree that much, but there's something wonderful about the tradition. And I think
Yeah,
as I get older, what I really do miss are those traditions. I miss, as you were
yes,
saying, kids running around the tree, and I miss the many different smells that come at Christmas time. The turkey in the oven, the cookies on the mountain, which is very storybook for a lot of people who don't actually have never have experienced any of that.
yeah,
But I think for me, some of the rituals for me are in the giving. I like to be out in community at this time and really try to support wherever I can, because I know what it's like to have that hamper come from the Salvation Army or have that present come. I'll never forget looking at that fireman. I'll never forget it. I mean, I was maybe 4 or 5 years old at the time, and I will never forget how big he was and his big fireman hat, and how he handed down this beautiful red purse that had all kinds of fake makeup inside. You could tell that I was already like a very girly girl,
yeah,
at that age. And so, yeah, it's a memory I will never forget. And the many Christmases that came afterwards with playing with my sisters and all of that. My mother, of course, who's passed on now, my sister as well, who's passed on. So you take for granted things that as you get older. And I know a
yeah,
lot of older adults in your building and a lot of older adults in every single building around. There's a lot of people that are on their own, right? That have nothing or no one to be with them. And so I also, I'm curious about, that, like, did you, I know it's not, may not be the right question for you because you've got you and Michael, but have you, have you noticed in the building where there might be some loneliness there for older adults?
No, I haven't. Everyone here is, like I said, family. They get
Yeah,
families.
that's good.
Um, yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't think there's anybody here that's actually alone at
Which
Christmas.
is really good because we
Yeah,
do know that a lot of people are.
we still, and it is December 3rd. We've put out, and December 3rd we'll go down. We're going to decorate. Everyone can come down and help decorate the lobbies. We'll put up a tree. We'll put which is the lobby at the entrance into the building.
Yeah.
So it's not just for the residents, but people that come and visit. They'll, then like you said, they walk in and there's a tree and there's festive stuff, and on that day it's people can volunteer, come down, help decorate the lobby,
Mhm.
have a couple of drinks, have some goodies, do a little bit of sharing with your neighbors, and that's about it. I haven't brought out or put out to the building yet if anyone would be interested in having a little get together. Like we could do, one resident said what we could do is like an open house where you have from 2 to 4 units, this and this, so that you're not gathering a whole bunch of people at one time in the lobby, because
Yeah.
it's a small lobby. I haven't discussed that with the rest of council to see how they would feel about it. So what you do is maybe have 3 different times, and break up that way, so at least neighbors can come and visit each other. I don't know how that would go over well or not, but
Like that idea. And I think that for our listeners' sake, it's small little things like that actually that hopefully we can give somebody sort of that little extra idea of, how can you support community even where you live? I don't think that everybody has to go out and do anything like super big. I do think that it's really important, especially, something as nice as putting, and I know in my mother's old building before she passed on, that's exactly what they did. The Strata Council, they made the lobby out. And this obviously she passed on years ago, but they made the lobby out so that people could come and have a bit of festival, and it just kind of gave this beautiful inclusiveness to the building, and that family kind of communal sort of celebration
yep,
thing,
exactly.
which
Yeah,
which I think is important, right?
yeah.
If we're gonna come to we are coming to the end of the program here already. We're getting very close to our time, but there's a couple things that I need to do before we get to that. First of all, I'm going to take a quick station identification and let people know that you've just tuned in to an unusual conversation, because it's not, normally we bring in all kinds of different people that do various things without community. This time it's a girlfriend chat with my buddy Marg. And Marg was on the show a couple of years back at the beginning of COVID, and we decided that it was really an important thing for us to do would be to come back and say, what happened 2 years later? And so we've spent a good part of the time talking about family and friends and, all kinds of wonderful things. It's my hope that you will learn something from my dear friend Marg, because frankly, I think that she is aged in place in the most perfect of ways. Um, Having said that, I'm also advocating for anybody to support older adults in our community. If you know somebody's up the road, it's the holiday time, and you don't celebrate holidays as far as Christmas is concerned, but you have your own different traditions that you want to celebrate. All celebration is fabulous. But let's think about our neighbors and see if we can be supportive. If you know that there's an older adult who lives on your block, think about maybe popping up some cookies or just checking in to make sure they're okay. The temperatures are going to start changing. It's going to start getting colder. A lot of our older adults are not going to leave their houses because they're afraid they may fall. Understandably so. This may be quite a cold winter, as the Farmer's Almanac tells us. So I think it's really important that we just remember the people that are nearby to us, and let's see if we can support them as best as they can. I also encourage you to please donate to the Salvation Army. Spend a time with the bells, on the kettle, do whatever it is that you would like to do during this holiday season. But let's spread our good fortune to those that may not have as much as we have in our life today. I've always known that people that have less often will donate more. I don't know why that is, but it constantly inspires me how people will come together. However you contribute, please contribute your time, your money, and your love to this community. We really need you. So thank you so much for tuning in to Act 3 today. As we leave the program, I'm turning back to my fabulous friend, and I'm going to ask her for her wisdom. Hello, wisdom woman. If you could imbibe anything during this holiday season, anything from the COVID conversation, anything from aging gracefully in this conversation, what would be some of your best pieces?
Oh, you always put me on the spot.
I know, don't you love me? I'm evil. People look forward to the wisdom, though.
I don't know. Stay healthy.
Stay healthy.
I recommend wearing masks. I think it's a good idea, even whatever, just as a general good health thing. Eat healthy, stay wealthy.
Play cards, play
And
games.
oh yeah, play games, lots and lots.
Bring on Mario. Bring on Mario.
Get that video game going, you betcha. But yeah, no, and just try and remain positive is one of the main things too. Just be positive. It's going to be what it's going to be, and a lot of it's going to be in how you handle things as to how it's going to end up for you.
Yeah, that's so true. It's how you handle things. And you've come through this in spades. And I'm super glad you've stayed healthy through this really, unusual time in our community life and in our world life. So thanks for being my guest today. Much appreciated, my dear.
Not a problem.
All right,
Bye.
everybody. That does it for this episode of Act 3. Don't forget, I love that you tune in to our YouTube station. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and please don't forget to share. Thanks for tuning in every week, every Monday at 1 o'clock for CHLY 101.7 and Act 3. And don't forget, come January, our newest episode of Act 3 on Shaw Spotlight will be on the way. So we look forward to coming to you through the television once again. In the meantime, take good care of yourself and each other.